gotta shake the whole thing.
Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please read the adequate notice of compliance statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's Office in preparation of the council meeting notice dated May 27, 2021, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Could you do the roll call, please?
Ms. Allen?
Here.
Ms. Hairston?
Here.
Ms. Little? Here. Mr. Naidu?
Here.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Bartan?
Present.
President Fox?
Here. Okay, and now if we could all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please read the notices regarding closed session and hearings and comments?
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that the council meetings are broadcast live on Summit YouTube channel and Comcast channel 36 and Verizon channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on HTTV on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's Office at rlicatis@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes or so in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to minutes for approval. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of regular and closed session of November 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we'll move on to reports. Madam Mayor, would you like to give yours, please?
Yes, thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Tonight, Council will be voting on a resolution about holiday displays on the green, and because I'm confident and hopeful it will be approved, I want to announce that the holiday tree and menorah lighting are part of the Miracle on Elm Street event on the Village Green on Sunday, November 28th. The event includes ice skating, photos with Santa, bonfires, hot chocolate, and more. It runs from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. with the tree and menorah lighting at 5 p.m. I hope to see you there. The Summit Volunteer First Aid Squad continues its annual fund drive. They rely on donations from the community to fund their operations and receive no financial support from the city or taxpayers. All services are provided free of charge, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. I encourage you to donate today at summitems.org. Thank you. And that's it, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And now Michael Rogers on the City Administrator's report.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. Just 2 items. One, a very last-minute reminder about the online parking permit renewals. That is today. So after this meeting, if you haven't done it, know who you are. Please do so. And then the second item, Thanksgiving's next week. The other Fellow First Foundation is holding its annual frozen turkey drive to benefit the Community Food Bank of New Jersey on Sunday, November 21st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. outside the Summit Diner. Non-perishable foods and monetary donations are accepted. For more information, please go to otherfellowfirstfoundation.org. And that's all I have, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. And I had a few other items. The Summit Policeman Benevolent Association, number 55, and Firemen's Mutual Benevolent Association Number 54, are asking members of the community to donate new unwrapped toys for the annual Toys for Tots holiday drive from Monday, November 22nd to Monday, December 13th. For drop-off locations, please go to the city website, cityofsummit.org. Members of the community are invited for a free Thanksgiving Day meal on Thursday, November 25th, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Community Center on 100 Morris Avenue. The catered meal will include roast turkey, traditional side dishes, pies, and other desserts, as well as activities. Event registration and information is available at summitcommunityprograms.com. Finally, the mayor and council are beginning the process of making appointments to city boards and committees. One of the things that makes Summit such a wonderful community is our volunteers. If you're interested in applying for a board or committee, I would encourage you to complete a volunteer application as soon as possible. You can find the application and a list of city boards and committees on the city's website, cityofsummit.org. And just a reminder, if anyone's here for the zoning board, the meeting is upstairs in the Whitman room, in case you're not in the place you intend to be. So that covers all of the reports. I believe we'll be putting off our presentation.
He says about a minute away, but if you want to continue with your business.
Why don't we do public comments? We'll flip them around. Okay, so at this point in the evening, I will take public comments. Is there anyone who'd like to comment? Okay, and you had nothing by email?
None by email.
Okay, so hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment period. And should we move on to?
Yeah, we only have one.
Do the ordinance
Yeah,
for
the
hearing?
ordinance for hearing.
Okay, we'll do the ordinance for, oh, he's right here. Let's let him have a minute to settle in, though. Okay, so we're going to do, we're just going to wait for our presentation and do one ordinance. We have an ordinance, Madam Clerk, an ordinance for hearing on safety and health. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Yes. Ordinance number 21-3248, an ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to Create a Manual to Establish, Regulate, and Control the Police Department of the City of Summit, Regulating and Defining the Manner of Appointment thereto and Removal therefrom, and Outlining the Duties of Officers, Personnel, and Divisions of the Police Department," passed on March 15, 2005, and amended on March 26, 2006, as amended by Resolution 36034.
Okay, Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. So I am pleased to introduce Ordinance 21-3248. As we've just heard, the purpose of this ordinance is to adopt a revised rules and regulation manual for members of the City of Summit Police Department. This new manual conforms with the current accreditation standards. It's been vetted, and I ask for us to move for hearing.
I second.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open the hearing, public hearing. Are there any comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public on this topic? Okay, last chance on comments from members of council. Okay, hearing none, I'm closing the hearing, and we'll move on to ordinance for final consideration.
If I may?
Sure,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 21-3248, an ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to Create a Manual to Establish, Regulate, and Control the Police Department of the City of Summit, Regulating and Defining the Manner of Appointment thereto and Removal therefrom, and Outlining the Duties of Officers, Personnel, and Divisions of the Police Department," passed on March 15, 2005, and amended on March 21, 2006, as amended by Resolution 36034.
Thank you. Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. As we've just had the hearing for ordinance number 21-3248, I am asking that we have this for final consideration. This ordinance, as I said, is for the purpose to adopt a revised rules and regulation manual for members of the City of Summit Police Department. It conforms with current accreditation standards and has been thoroughly vetted by the Safety Committee and our council.
Second.
Madam Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Hairston?
Yes?
Ms. Little? Yes. Mr. Naidoo?
Yes.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
President Fox?
Yes, motion carries. So now we'll take a little detour in our agenda, and we'll go back to our presentation. This evening, we have Mark Leckington from Leckington Advisors and Matt Delory, who's in charge of our affordable housing program, will introduce
Yeah,
him.
thank you, Madam President, Mayor, Council, fellow staff members, members of the public. My name is Matthew Delory. I'm Administrative Manager for the Department of Community Services and also Council-appointed Municipal Housing Liaison. In a sense, I basically am a point of contact and sort of oversee and manage our fair share agreement. And in probably earlier this year, we had the retirement of our administrative agent. We're lucky to secure Mr. Leckington, which council appointed as our administrative agent. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have him just come tonight and just not having been here in person to introduce himself and talk a little bit of his background and what he does. And we'll be brief, but we thank you for your time. And without further ado, I'll invite Mr. Leckington to the lectern.
Thank you, Mr. Delory.
Big fan of
Good
puns.
evening.
Good evening. It was very nice for you to have me here tonight. Again, the name's Mark Leckington. Firm's is Leckington Advisors. My bank reminded me today that 3 years ago on this day, I opened the first checking account for the company, and so it's a very young company. I'm looking actually to hire one of my first staff people in the next few days, so we're growing. I basically provide consulting services on administrative agent issues of basically affordable housing portfolios, helping design affordable housing programs to comply with the Mount Laurel Doctrine. I spend a lot of time doing forensic analysis of older programs and trying to improve them and bring them up to current best practices and standards. In addition to serving as the sole employee and president of Leckington Advisors, I'm also the vice president of Affordable Housing Professionals of New Jersey. They're the agency, they're the organization that's dedicated to continuing education and improving the best practices and training. I also work part-time for Rutgers teaching affordable housing classes on doing income certifications and the like. I've been really fortunate to get the position here as the administrative agent. I'm not a large enough firm to take on large clients, so this is a right-sized project for me, and it's been going very well. Matthew's been a pleasure to work with. The Summit Housing Authority's been very forthcoming with passing files along, and we've hit the ground running. We've occupied our first unit with the first tenant, a lovely woman from South Orange who grew up here, ended up moving away, and was very, very anxious to come back. One of the most exciting things that I get to do as administrative agent is to call these people that have been sitting on a waiting list, and she's been on the waiting list almost 3 years. The excitement in her voice that I had a brand new unit in Summit for her, it made my day, and I think I made her day as well. But it's been a pleasure, and I'm happy to answer any questions and talk a little bit more if you have the time, but thank you very much.
Go ahead, Councilmember Vartan.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Mark. We haven't actually met in person, but it's good to see you.
I see you.
Yes.
I don't see your Zoom
It's
background.
all, yeah,
but
it's all just Zoom. So I think there's 3 points I want to make, and I don't know if any of them are a question, but we'll find out. So the first is the history. I think it's important for the public to understand there is a qualification process for the Housing Authority, and then there's a separate qualification process for other affordable housing that's managed by the city and the Affordable Housing Liaison and the administrative agent. So those functions were both being done by the executive director of the Housing Authority before. And then when he left Summit, we thought this was a good time for us to separate those functions because they are different, and I think it's important that we have someone else managing that process. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have an affordable housing committee, and it only is prescribed to meet once a year, which is in February. But we had one, and thank you for coming to that. We had one earlier this month, or yeah, was that this month? October, last month. So
that was a great opportunity for the members of the Affordable Housing Committee, who are also leaders throughout the community and members of the clergy, to also be able to meet Mark, ask him questions. And so thank you for doing that. And then the third thing is you have already put up a new pre-qualification form on the City of Summit website. So I think now is the part where I would ask you to just describe that a little bit and what basically the process is for people who are interested in affordable housing in Summit to actually get it. So, thank you.
No, I appreciate the comments and the question. You're absolutely right. There is a very distinct and separate process between that the Housing Authority follows, U.S. Department of HUD in that case, and there's in the Mount Laurel Doctrine, obviously, I would have said that the regulatory arm would have been COA, but if any affordable housing nerds in the room know, the COA has been mothballed for a very long time. But the regulations sit at the state of New Jersey still, and so they do borrow some commonality between the two, but they are very distinct and different. The webpage that we've basically just improved a webpage that already existed, made it a little bit more user-friendly, a little less technical, and we've embedded a smart sheet form directly into the page so that after a brief introduction and a little understanding of how the income levels fall on the current day, there's a little form that they fill out. I think there's only about 8 or 10 questions, so the level of investment is relatively easy. We got a little bit of feedback on the first draft, made a few tweaks to the language. I'm not even sure if I told you about the latest batch, but there was some questions that had me refine some of the text a little bit. And without any real marketing push, people have discovered this page, and we have, I think last look, 17 people have signed up to be added to the waiting list. So that's just the beginning for these folks, though. The next step for them is to be part of a future random selection. And I hesitate to use the word lottery because there's nothing to be won other than an opportunity. And so the random selection will basically randomize the pool of people that have signed up for the waiting list. And the order in which they are chosen from that random selection, they will be added to the end of previous random selections that the Housing Authority had done, most recent one being in June of 2019. On the average, they broke them up into 6 different lists to align them with bedroom sizes of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and then low and moderate income. So these people would be tacked onto the end of those lists. Generally, there's as many as 50 people, and maybe even more in some cases, that have already been expressed interest, done this pre-application, and been part of a random selection. So it's there's an extensive, there's a little bit of time that folks are going to have to be patient with. The one saving grace is, though, that in my efforts to find a viable tenant for this one unit that came up most recently, it took me about 6 or 8 people on the list to get to somebody that was well aligned with they had a family size that was appropriate for the unit, had income that was appropriate for the unit, was in a position to be able to move, was anxious, was willing to move. In fact, some people, for whatever reason, some said they couldn't break their lease. They had other situations that were preventing them from moving. So while 50 sounds like a lot, it may go pretty quickly for some, and maybe not for others. It's really hard to say, to put an estimate on time. But yeah, that's the major sort of public-facing improvement that we've done is to that webpage, and I encourage everybody to go check it out if you have a few minutes and give us any feedback you might have on how it's set up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Hairston.
Mark, it's good to see
Yes,
you in
likewise.
person, and to thank you for being here, and to thank you for the public meeting that Matt organized. And I want to give credit to Councilwoman Little, who has been on this journey since getting on council, and we are overjoyed with the transparency by which this exists, the order, the care that Matt put into this, and now Summit is a very desirable place, and we now have a mechanism for keeping the developments that happen in Summit that are designated. We have a way of keeping track of them, and you have introduced a very orderly process, so I just want to applaud your efforts, and we're going to be holding you accountable, and I just want to agree with the request that we go and we look and we see what is available. So thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Are there any other comments? Councilmember Knighton.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for coming presentation. Thank you, Matt, for all the work that you've done already. This is clearly, as Councilwoman Hairston has said, this has been an issue that has been going on for some time, and this had really needed a lot of attention. Councilwoman Little absolutely spearheading, and Councilman Vartan picking up from there, to do this. And I would say we should. I love the fact that you talked about best practices. Really need to figure out what are really what we should be doing in addition to where we are right now. Improve it, and also look at units that previously were supposed to be affordable, and are they right now affordable? Because those were commitments that were made, and make sure that they are in fact available as they were designated at that time, and go back and make sure that we have a clear inventory of what is supposed to be affordable. Is it being filled with the right people for those units or not? And then keep track of it going forward. But thank you for all your efforts.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, are there any other Councilmember Little and then Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to add my welcome to the comments that have already been made. A few people have alluded to the fact that this was one of the things I started working on almost the minute I was sworn in as a council member, and that this, there was a lot of improvements that needed to be made and that have been made over the years, and the year coming into this position and putting these practices in place, and the work that Matt Delory has done to organize and make this process more transparent is all was really needed, and is a work in progress still, but we are clearly moving in the right direction, and we are in a much better place than we were 4 years ago when we started working on this. So I want to welcome you to Summit. This is a great community, and we do have a really long-standing and firm commitment to affordable housing and to having diversity of housing options in our city, and we need, the path towards that goal was not always clear. And so these are really important steps in making that more clear, more accessible, and easier to navigate. And so I welcome you to Summit. I'm looking forward to working with you over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Little. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you for coming tonight, Mark. And this process sounds incredibly organized. I wasn't here prior, so I'm excited to hear how well and easy the process is for people. 2 questions. When someone goes onto the Summit website, does that feed into a larger list, or is it then when people come to the Summit website, they only see Summit housing? Like, is anybody able to get pushed out to other housing? And there's a reason I'm asking that question.
Yeah, I wish. Unfortunately, the way that the Mount Laurel doctrine has been set up and the regulations have been written, there's not a lot of incentive to be sharing systems, and making it even worse, there's no standardized system. There's a lot of pen and paper processes around the state. I'd say 3/4 of the municipalities that have sought substantive certification and have Mount Laurel units are pen and paper based operations. So we could add some general links to other sites where they are automated, but to have anything comprehensive would be incredibly difficult.
Okay, so it's almost mutually exclusive, so each town will have their own system, and there's no connection point.
There's not, unfortunately. There's one commonality of all the systems, and there was a law that was passed last July that said that all new affordable housing units that come online must advertise for a period of time on an HMFA, New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency website called it's called the Housing Resource Center, and it is. it is, the legislation sort of jammed a square peg in a round hole and made it, it's a little bit of a cumbersome experience for the individual to find units in that system, unfortunately. And HPNJ, the organization I'm the vice president of, have been actively working with them to try to make it a little bit more user-friendly and make it a little bit more compliant with the rule. So while that does exist and the regulations say that all units need to be advertised there, it's not all units, it's only new units that come online. And it's a little bit difficult. If you're not a savvy person with the internet, and you're going to have a very difficult time trying to find units on there, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's the state of affairs right now in New Jersey.
So that actually prompted a separate question, which would be, if someone gets placed into an affordable home, then you, say they got into Cranford, you wouldn't necessarily know that until you made the phone call to say, hey, we had an opening. Would that be correct?
Yeah, and based on my experience with the first 3 people I called, the phone's not going to ring. It's going to ring at, like, I don't know what it is, but people are changing their cell phone numbers. And yeah, so yeah, if I do reach them and I am successful, and I have to get pretty creative sometimes with reaching them, once they update me on their situation, yeah, I would update the list and reflect on, November 15th, I spoke to Mrs. Johnson. She's, and there's, now we have a record of that phone call being made, that feedback, and then I move on to the next person on the list.
Only because it's lottery, so that's why I was interested in finding out, because I'm sure there are a lot of other towns filling their affordable housing, and then you wouldn't know. So the reason why I asked this question is, when you contacted the people for the woman in West Orange ended up with the unit, there were people that you had called that said, I can't take this unit.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to those people? Do they now go back into this random lottery, or do you call other towns and say, okay, these people are on the list?
Yeah.
They could do it in 6 months? I don't know. I'm just curious.
There are situations. So first, let me just speak to the regulations first. The regulations provide a lot of latitude here. There are towns that will give a person an opportunity and skip them, and that is written in their manual. This is the way we're going to offer units. If you're not available at the time, you get skipped and then maybe added back in. My personal preference is that because they've been on the list, and they should be rewarded with some. They were early adopter. They were in the early part, days of the program. I will, if they have not told me something that would preclude them from a unit in the future, I will go back to them. I'll check back in with them when the next unit comes online that they're aligned for. Has the situation changed? Are you in a position to be able to move now, or whatever the issue was? One of the other things I'm seeing too are that people are jumping income categories. So they signed up, and the housing authority put them in a list as a very low income. In fact, that's what happened with this woman from South Orange. She was very low income, but I called her anyway, and she said, no, I actually just got a job at this nursing home in Maplewood. They just moved me up to full time, and that actually changed her eligibility for the unit.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Sullivan?
Yeah, I just had a comment. Lisa, you did a great job. You covered my questions. You're a breath of fresh air, Mark. What we have been dealing with wasn't so great, and we're just looking forward to working with you and working through this complex process as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Naidoo.
Thank you. Listening to your back and forth with Councilwoman Allen, it raised a question for me. So is it possible, or is it desirable even, that we ask people every, like, say, a year or 2 years to update their information? And do we do that now?
We don't have a means to do that right now, but there are some options. The Smart Sheet approach was more of a Band-Aid, baling wire, duct tape, kind of like, let's get something up so that we have, we're complying with the regs and we have given people an opportunity to express interest. That could be elevated. I think there would be a little bit of a cost to that, because it would require people to be able to log in and create an account and then revisit that account and update it. And there are a few tools that are available to do this sort of thing. So I'm not, we could certainly talk about it, get an estimate of what the pricing would look like for that sort of thing. But as it stands right now, the only way that we'd be able to really do that effectively, and I've got this group of some 300 people across these 6 waiting lists, 50 on each, or roughly, that I'm thinking that it may make sense to send them a little postcard and say,
Yeah.
hey, here's what I have for you right now. What does this look like? And maybe that could be an opportunity for them to go onto the waiting list, refill it out, and then I could update their information. So I'm certainly open to that, and I'd love to talk more about it.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, it's how much time do you spend on your end versus people who are applying on their end and getting them to update the information, because you just said to Councilwoman Allen's question, the person who you got in this slot, if you just went straight by what is the category and didn't go down and talk to the person, but the easier way in a way is that person having updated that information, and then you wouldn't have to necessarily. But I mean, look into what's feasible, what's not, what's software, or what is available that could be used and interface with the city's software system.
Yeah.
President, one more quick point.
Yes, Councilmember Vartan.
Thank you. So I think what's important is when you look at what's on the website right now, what you're collecting is really just very, very basic information. And I think that's sort of intentional, right? That people don't have to go through a very, very cumbersome process at the beginning to just get on a list, right? And then I think it's basically like, I'm interested, and then you move into a process that then becomes extremely cumbersome, right? With lots and lots of information and bank statements and taxes and all manner of things, right? So I think it's sort of about a balance between how much do we want people to invest in time right at the beginning versus just get very basic information and then be able to follow up with them. So I think we want to try to balance that, but thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? Okay. Any other comments from members of council? Thank you so much, Mr. Leckington. This was really very informative, and we're so glad that you're working with us, and we look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Delory.
Thank you.
I'm at
All right, so now we're back to the regularly scheduled agenda. So we're now on to ordinances for introduction. So the first one is community programs and parking services. Madam Clerk?
ID number 9250, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking. This is in reference to the Summit Downtown Free Holiday Parking request.
Councilmember O'Sullivan?
Thank you, Council President. This is ordinance number 9250, and it's an ordinance that, if approved, will allow free holiday parking for our shoppers from the second Saturday in December through December 30th each year. During this time period each year, free parking will be available at all 90-minute street meters, the ground floor of the Tier Garage, and the Bank Street lot. The ordinance will exclude the DeForest lots. All time limits will be strictly enforced to encourage turnover of parking spaces. This ordinance will remove the need for SDI to ask the City Council to approve free holiday parking each year, thereby allowing for smoother budget planning. I ask that we introduce this ordinance.
I think you're muted, Councilmember Little. Still muted.
I second.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. Naidu?
yes.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
President Fox?
Yes, the motion carries. The hearing will be on December 1st, and we're moving on to safety and health. Ordinance for introduction.
ID number 9266, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-13, Turn Prohibitions, subsection 7-13.1, Turn Prohibitions.
Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. I'm introducing the ordinance that, if approved, will prohibit turning on left at the intersection of Weaver Street and Morris Avenue, and also at Norwood Avenue and Morris Avenue. This would be from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and then again at 2:30 p.m. at 3:30 p.m. And these are on school days only. So I ask for ordinance 9266 to be introduced.
I second.
All right, Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. Naidu?
Yes.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
President Fox?
Yes, motion carries. Again, a hearing date of December 1st. And our last safety and health ordinance for introduction, Madam Clerk.
ID 9286, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8, Parking, subsection 7-8.4, stopping or standing during certain hours on certain streets.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you, Council President. Introducing for hearing ID number 9286. And this ordinance is for stopping or standing to be prohibited on the north side of Sherman Avenue between Norwood Avenue and McGregor Road between the hours of 2:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. and this is on school days. So I ask for this ordinance to be introduced.
I second.
Madam Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. Naidu?
Yes.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
President Fox?
Yes. So the motion carries. Again, the hearing date will be December 1st, and we're now moving on to resolutions. So we have a number of law and labor resolutions. Councilmember Allen, would you like to start with law and labor number 1, please?
Yes. Thank you, Council President. I'd like to introduce Resolution Number 9284, which seeks to approve the closed session and regular council meetings for the 2022 calendar year. I ask to approve this resolution.
I second.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Law and labor number 2?
Okay. I would like to introduce Resolution Number 9246, authorizing the person-to-person transfer of the plenary retail distribution liquor license from Namish Corporation to OS Wine, effective immediately. I ask to move this resolution.
I second it.
Are there any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries. Law and labor number 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Pursuant to our discussion in closed session, I'm introducing Resolution Number 9267 to authorize the execution of an agreement between the City of Summit and the New Jersey State Policeman Benevolence Association to extend Robert Michael Freeman's service through December 31st, 2024. I ask to approve this resolution.
I second.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then one last law and labor resolution.
Pursuant to our discussion in closed session, I'd like to introduce Resolution Number 9240, which seeks to reappoint the Municipal Judge John J. DeMasi, effective January 1st, 2022, for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2024, with compensation commensurate to the City of Summit salary ordinance. I ask to move this resolution.
I second.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we're now moving on to community programs and parking services. 2 resolutions. Councilmember O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to bundle these if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
This is ID numbers 7931 and 7930 to authorize the purchase through the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System, Tatlock basketball court resurfacing for $68,452.58, and Memorial Field basketball courts resurfacing for $105,058.20. The basketball courts at Tatlock and the basketball courts at Memorial are heavily used by players of all ages, as well as the elementary school students from Washington School and Brayton School, respectively. during their recess. Both court surfaces are suffering from large cracks and heaving asphalt and are beyond minor repairs. The city's engineering department has determined that the best solution is to mill and pave the courts and add new baskets with fiberglass backboards to bring it up to date. Additionally, at Tatlock, we will increase the size of the court area to extend safely beyond the sidelines and end lines of the court to make it safer for the players. Murray Hill Paving and Concrete LLC will perform the work at Tatlock at a cost of $68,452.58, and at Memorial at a cost of $105,058.20. Murray Hill Paving and Concrete holds the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Contract and is eligible for this contract award without further competitive bidding. Excuse me. Although the city did receive 2 other quotes for each site that were substantially higher in price. These 2 projects are being funded through our capital budget and the Union County Kids Recreation Trust grant. I ask that we approve. Oh, if I can get my computer to unfreeze. One other item I wanted to mention was Memorial was renovated back in 2007 for almost $90,000 without fiberglass backboards. So just as a point of reference, so I ask that we approve these 2 resolutions.
My second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Councilmember Naidoo.
I just wanted to say, I'm totally thrilled. Totally thrilled. So there you go. And thank you for Tatlock as well, Mark. And thank you, Danny and Beth, for getting this through. Appreciate it.
Any other comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? This has been an item that we've talked about for a long time, so I'm glad to see that it's finally happening. I think there are going to be a lot of happy basketball players in this town, so thank you, Mark.
I would just add, because I've been speaking to Mark about this, you know, we do all the things for the city, sometimes underground that you don't see, and sewers and all of that stuff. It'll just be nice to know that that there's money being spent on things we can actually see and enjoy, and that money is coming back from the county for this, so I think it's good for everybody.
But I wouldn't denigrate sewers because
No,
when they don't work, you know.
No. But
I see your point. I'm just kidding you.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, if there aren't any other comments, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So moving on to finance, Councilmember Vartan.
Thank you, Council President. This is resolution number 9242, and this resolution authorizes the transfer of funds within the 2021 municipal operating budget from accounts with a balance to those with insufficient funds. This is a common occurrence at the end of a year and the beginning of the year. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none, could we have a roll call, Madam Clerk? Thank
Ms.
you.
Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Hairston?
Aye.
Ms. Little?
Aye.
Mr. Naidoo?
Yes.
Mr. O'Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
President Fox?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to finance number 2.
Thank you, Council President. This is ID number 9265. This resolution authorizes an agreement with the law firm of Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood for legal services as the city's bond counsel for 2022, not to exceed $60,000. This firm has served the city well for the last several years, and in my personal experience, the attorney assigned to us, Mr. Beinfeld, is deeply experienced and highly competent. So I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we have one more finance resolution. Councilmember Vartan.
Thank you, Council President. This is ID number 9262. This resolution authorizes an agreement with the law firm of DeFrancesco, Bateman, Koonsman, Davis, Learer, and Flaum for legal services as the city's tax appeal counsel for 2022. The agreement is not to exceed $135,000. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we're now moving on to capital projects and community services. Councilmember Little, would you like to take cap number 1, please?
Council President. The first capital projects resolution is number 8086, and it's to authorize deer culling at the Reeves Reed Arboretum. John Byrne, the curatorial director at Reeves Reed, has advised the council that the current deer population at the Arboretum has raised concerns for the safety, health, and finances of the Arboretum. And we are working with Union County for their program for the culling of deer. We've done this in years past. It's been very successful, and it is provided at no cost to the city. So I would ask that we approve this resolution.
Second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Okay. Comments from members of the public? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Capital projects number 2, Councilmember Little.
Thank you, Council President. Capital projects number 2 is number 9253, and this is to amend an agreement with New Jersey Transit to permit installation of a bicycle storage facility. This is an agreement that extends an agreement that was made previously with New Jersey Transit in December of 2017. At that time, we entered into a 5-year agreement to lease the property for a bike storage unit. This agreement extends that 5-year period by 3 years with an option to extend for an additional 3 years. So that would allow for us to do this bike storage facility, which has been in the works for quite a long time. So I ask that we approve this resolution.
I second it.
Are there any comments from members of council? Councilmember Vartan.
Thank you, Council President. What's the next step toward actually building the thing?
I'm going to throw that to either Director Schrager. Would you like to take that, or?
Thank you. Through you, Council President.
Of course.
Currently, right now, it's just funding. So the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition, who we've contracted with, is working at getting funding. I don't have it with me, but just when the lease did expire with New Jersey Transit, there was the ability to request this 3 years extra. Now having that in writing, we believe that will greatly assist getting that final funding. So we're hoping probably in the spring we could start with the construction. So, but we believe by extending it, they'll be attractive to some funding arms, and we'll be a go.
Okay, thank you. And how long will the construction take, do we think?
Probably about a month. So.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. Are there any other comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Capital projects number 3.
Thank you, Council President. Capital projects number 3.
Beth, you're muted.
Right?
Okay, you're good now. Yep.
Yes. Capital
Nope.
projects number 3 is resolution 9244. It's to declare a vacancy in the Department of Community Services. Pursuant to our closed session agreement, we are going to be declaring a vacancy for a safe homes inspector in the Community Service Department. Our current home inspector, Jorge Maradona, is taking retirement, and that leaves a crucial position in Community Services open, and we would like to declare this vacancy. I ask we approve this resolution.
Second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then our final capital projects resolution, Councilmember Little.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution number 4 is resolution number 9222, and this is to appoint an acting construction official of the Department of Community Services and transfer all staff appointments. This is due to the impending retirement of Gary Lewis, who has served as the city's construction officer official for approximately 30 years. So he's been in this position for a long time, and it is necessary now to appoint an acting construction official due to his appointment. So we will be appointing the current building inspector, Ralph Maritato, as the acting construction official effective November 1st. He has been working under Gary Lewis for many years and is fully capable of stepping into this position, and is already started getting up to speed and working this role. So we ask that you approve this resolution.
Second.
Any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to safety and health. Councilmember Hairston, would you like to do resolution number 1, please?
Yes, thank you, Council President. Introducing Resolution ID 9189, and due to the impending retirement of our Chief Bartolotti, interviews were conducted on November 10th to fill the positions of captain, lieutenant, and sergeant in the police department. And as a result of these interviews, the mayor is recommending the appointment, with council consent, of Sergeant Ryan Peters, promoted to the rank of captain, Sergeant Michael Triber, promoted to the rank of lieutenant, and Officer Christian Erickson, promoted to the rank of sergeant. And so we ask for approval of this resolution 9189.
I second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Madam Mayor, would you like to say anything?
I think this was a very rigorous process. The interviews held by myself, the 2 captains, the chief, and the safety committee, which includes Councilmember Hairston, Councilmember Vartan, and Michael Rogers, were thorough. There were 4 candidates. We unanimously chose captain to be for captain to the Sergeant Peters, and then the ranks of lieutenant and sergeant have come from a list which had been generated with interviews that were held in the past. So they were the next on the list. We have an outstanding police force, and one of the main goals of this police force under its current leadership is community engagement. Police in Summit have long thought that they're not enforcers, but rather guardians, and that's we're well on that road. We have been for a while, but we're taking a whole new approach, or a greater emphasis on community engagement. And I'm very, very proud of these men and women, and I think that these promotions are outstanding.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are there any comments from members of council? Comments from members of the public? Chief, is there anything you'd like to add, or? Sure. And maybe you can also share with us when the swearing-ins are going to be.
Thank you, Council President.
Of course.
I do want to thank the Mayor, Councilwoman Harrison, Councilmember Vartan, City Administrator Rogers, and Captains Steven Zagorski and Captain Rick Proctor. As the Mayor said, this interview process was a rigorous one with 4 candidates, and a lot of time was put into this over a 2-week period, so I want to thank everybody for their involvement. The swearing-in ceremony will be tomorrow for these 3 gentlemen, along with potentially 2 new hires that will be the next resolution to come up before the floor. It'll be at 9:30 in the morning, and I hope to see everybody there.
At the community center.
At the community center, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there aren't any comments from anyone else, we will go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now, safety and health number 2.
Thank you, Council President. Introducing ID 9190, a resolution to appoint 2 new officers as a result of our closed session. These vacancies were previously discussed September 1st and at our September 21st Common Council meetings. And we, through a list, the police chief is recommending the hiring of Dennis Lucasco and Jeffrey Ranke to the position of police officers, and that will be effective on November 16th. Dennis Lucasco currently serves as a sworn officer with the Keene University Police Department and has met all of the requirements for this appointment as per the city ordinance, and having successfully completed the background investigation, all psychological, medical, and drug screening exams. Jeffrey Ranke currently holds a valid certification from the New Jersey Police Training Commission and has also met all the requirements for this appointment as per city ordinance and has successfully completed the background investigations as well as all the psychological, medical, and drug screening exams required. So I ask that we pass Resolution 9190.
Second.
Are there any comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have one more resolution from the floor. It's an administrative programs resolution. Councilmember Naidoo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is to allow for the display of holiday lights at the Village Green, consistent with what we've done in the past and consistent with the existing laws that are applicable to it. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this resolution.
I second.
Any comments from members of council? Any comments from members of the public? So just to explain a little more for those of you who don't have a copy of the resolution, this will allow for displays of holiday decorations, which will include a menorah and a tree. And they will be put up starting the 24th of November through December 31st. So with that, if there are no comments, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then we also have on the consent agenda a safety and health resolution that's related to this that I will ask Councilmember Hairston to introduce.
Thank you, Council President. And this resolution from the floor is to authorize an event at the Summit Jewish Community Center Congregation Or Shalom menorah lighting on the Village Green Sunday, November 28th. There is no rain date. It'll be from 5 to 6 p.m. So I introduce this resolution.
I second that.
Okay, are there any comments on this matter? So if there are not, then we'll just go ahead and I'll ask for a motion for the entire consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now it's time for council members' comments or new business. Does anyone have anything? Councilmember Naidoo.
Thank you, Council President. I think it's okay now that the election is over and the votes have all been counted to congratulate our colleagues, Beth, Greg, and Lisa on their re-election to council. Thank you for continued service to the city and to our community and for your willingness to volunteer again for this. And I want to thank all those who also ran for election. But finally, I am thrilled to say that I have the honor of holding this particular seat for 6 years, and that the person who will be taking my place on the dais is a person of such high caliber, fine qualities, and capable individual as Andy Miniger. I am absolutely beyond thrilled that he will be taking this seat. So thank you, Andy, for your willingness to serve, and congratulations.
Welcome, Andy. We look forward to working with you and for you joining us. Are there any other comments?
Well, I would just like to say, as it's our last meeting before the holidays begin, happy Thanksgiving, everyone,
Yep.
and happy Hanukkah, everyone who celebrates.
Right, and hopefully we'll see you all on the green for the tree lighting and the Hanukkah menorah lighting on the
Yeah.
28th.
Yeah.
So happy holiday, everyone, and do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.